Okay, so up until this point, we've talked about a number of the most important data transformation tools in the query editor. Up next, I want to cover some important settings and options. And the first topic here is data source settings. So in the Home tab of the query editor, you see this option for data source settings. And that basically allows you to view and manage all of the individual connections in your Power BI file. So in this example that we're looking at here, we've got connections to a number of individual CSV files, as well as a folder down there at the bottom of the list. Now, the critical concept to understand about the data source settings is that when you make a connection to a local file, a file that's located on your computer, Power BI will basically take a snapshot of that exact file path and the exact file name. And what that means is that if anything changes about your file, if you rename it, if you move it, update permissions, a path location, anything, that path won't automatically update within Power BI. So what you need to do is go into these data source settings, click change source, and then browse to the revised version of that file. So this is probably one of the most common issues that I see in Power BI, where people inadvertently rename a file or rearrange things on their desktop and accidentally break these file paths. But the good news is that it's very easy to fix as soon as you understand how these data source settings work. So let me show you what I mean. For this video, you can either continue to just follow along here with me and watch because we're not actually going to be adding any new data or revising anything to what we have. I just want to show you a demo of what happens when a file path does break and you need to update it. All right, so from here, I'm going to head to the query editor. And from here to check out our data source settings, right, we're from the Home tab, data source settings, and this dialog will open up that shows us all of the different connections within the workbook, right? So we've got our Maven Fuzzy Factory SQL connection. We've got a bunch of local CSV file connections, a folder. We've got our Wikipedia web link, right? So we're seeing everything here. And everything's looking good. It's running smoothly. But what would happen if I accidentally changed one of these file names? So let me navigate to my actual file folder on my desktop. All right, here we are. And let's say, for example, I'm going to update the AdventureWorks product lookup name, and we'll call this _2, right? So we'll rename that. And now I'm going to head back to the query editor. And if I click on my product lookup table and I refresh this data, we get an error here, right? Could not find the file, right? Because what Power BI is looking for is this AdventureWorks product lookup table, but it's now named lookup _2, right? So there's a couple of different ways that we can go about actually fixing this. If we go back up to our data source settings, we can come down to our product lookup table, and we're going to change the source, right? So what this does is it allows us to browse for a new path, and we can come back here. We'll point it at our new lookup table, click open, okay. And then we can close. And now when we refresh the data, everything looks good here. These applied steps all work, right? And we're left with a usable product lookup table again. Now we're back to usual. Source is populated properly. All of the applied steps are maintained like we just saw. We haven't lost any information. Pretty simple fix. We could just leave things the way they are, or I can kind of show you that same process in reverse, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back and I'm going to change the file back to its original name, right? Back here, and we'll remove the 2. We'll head back to the query editor, right? And I'm actually going to refresh this again so we can get that error to show up, right? So now Power BI is looking for 2, and we just updated the file name. So remember how I said there's a couple of different ways that you can update this? We've already seen the process by going through the data source settings. What you can actually do here is from your source applied step, click on this gear icon, and this brings you back to that same exact place where you can now browse for the correct file path or the file location. All right, so we'll click on our product lookup, same process, open, click OK, and that's been updated again. If we go down to our last applied step, everything looks great. It's been updated, no data loss, and we've successfully reverted that file name back to its original name. Hopefully that was a helpful demo on how to address some of those data source errors using the data source setting options.